Translator. Pray speak, milady. If it lies within my power, then naturally I will not decline. If it does not, then I dare not accept so priceless a gift, Ling Han said, his tone level as still water. The young girl stared, utterly dumbfounded. Even after hearing the wondrous effects of this handguard, he could yet keep such calm. Was this fellow truly a youth? Why did he resemble an old man who had weathered countless hardships and seen every storm beneath heaven? Lady Yan smiled faintly and said, "Since it is I who seek your assistance, then of course it is within your ability, Mr. Ling. The matter I wish to ask of you is this. Have the capable person standing behind Mr. Ling concoct a permanent pill for me." Permanent pill? Shock flickered across Ling Han's face. Milady has a friend who has entered a state of false death? How did you know? Lady Yan rose abruptly, her emotions surging, agitation plain upon her features. The permanent pill was a black-grade, high-level medicinal pill, yet it stood so close to Earth-grade that it was but half a step away. Those black-grade, high-level alchemists who could successfully refine it could be counted on one hand. In the past, Lady Yan had also sought Fu Yuansheng and Wu Songlin to refine it for her, yet neither of them possessed even the slightest certainty of success, and thus both refused. And now, Ling Han had guessed the reason she required the permanent pill merely from hearing its name. How could she not believe that behind him stood a Grandmaster Alchemist even more formidable than Fu Yuansheng and Wu Songlin? An Earth-grade alchemist. Nothing that occurred within Cherishing Flower Pavilion could ever escape her eyes or her ears. Thus, when she learned that Ling Han shared a profoundly deep friendship with the two great bosses of alchemy, she had already surmised that an even more capable alchemist stood behind him. Otherwise, Wu Songlin and Fu Yuansheng would never have lowered themselves to befriend someone so much younger than themselves. This only made her all the more determined to forge a good relationship with Ling Han and see whether she could obtain the aid of that Grandmaster Alchemist behind Ling Han to refine the permanent pill for her. "I guessed," Ling Han replied calmly. Naturally, he would not tell her that in his previous life he had been the Alchemy Emperor, and that there was no pill formula he had not heard of or seen before. The more serene he appeared, the higher his standing rose within Lady Yan's heart. This was what confidence meant. "Mr. Ling, does the alchemist behind you have the certainty to successfully concoct the permanent pill?" Lady Yan asked, her voice faintly trembling. "Yes." Ling Han nodded with a smile. In truth, had it been a few days earlier, he truly would not have dared claim certainty, for this pill was near the level of Earth grade, and at most he could only reliably refine yellow grade high-level pills. However, after fusing with the strange fire, he possessed enough confidence to refine all medicinal pills of Earth grade and below. Who asked him to have been the Alchemy Emperor in his last life? Really? Joy arrived too suddenly, leaving Lady Yan feeling as though everything before her were a dream. "N." Ling Han nodded. Thank you, Mr. Ling." Lady Yan dipped into a slight bow, her beautiful eyes shimmering with the light of tears. Ling Han said, "Hand the required ingredients to me, then come to Huyang Academy to collect the pill 3 days later." 3 days? A dilemma that had ensnared her for 10 years could be resolved in merely 3 days? Lady Yan's expression held both delighted astonishment and a dazed blankness. She remained stunned for a time before saying, "Shuang Shuang, go gather the ingredients for me." "Yes, milady," the young girl beside her answered swiftly. Her name was Yun Shuang Shuang, an orphan taken in by Lady Yan. Since childhood, Lady Yan had cherished and doted upon her as though she were her own true daughter. Very quickly, Yun Shuang Shuang returned with another wooden box, far larger than the one before. "Then I shall take my leave," Ling Han said, lifting the wooden box. "Please allow my personal carriage to send you back." Lady Yan gestured toward the box in Ling Han's hands. With such a large box, it would be inconvenient for him to walk back. Ling Han did indeed possess a spatial ring, yet naturally he would not reveal it before Lady Yan. Thus he nodded and said, "Then I must trouble you, Lady Yan." "You are welcome, Mr. Ling." Lady Yan had untied a great knot in her heart, and could not help but feel radiant with joy. A bright, dazzling smile blossomed upon her face. "Shuang Shuang, escort Mr. Ling back for me." "Yes, milady." Yun. Shuang answered respectfully. With Yun Shuang accompanying him, Ling Han stepped out of Cherishing Flower Pavilion. At the entrance, a horse-drawn carriage already awaited. The horse drawing it was a handsome creature, pure white from head to hoof, yet from its forehead sprouted a deer's horn. This was a cloud deer horse, a type of demonic beast. It was not particularly powerful, but because it was exceptionally good-looking, it was often used to draw carriages or serve as a mount, and its price was exceedingly high. The carriage's interior was even more luxurious. Within was a soft couch upon which one could lie down and rest, as well as fresh fruits and fine wine, rare luxuries that allowed a traveler to indulge even upon the road. "Please, young Master Han," Yun Shuang said. She was exceedingly curious about Ling Han. A youth like him could actually resolve a problem that had plagued her mistress for so many years. Ling Han boarded the carriage, took out the handguard, and began to refine it. Yun Shuang, seated to one side, felt an inexplicable gloom. She was a very beautiful young girl. What man would not have his gaze caught upon seeing her? Yet this brat utterly ignored her presence, focusing all his attention on that handguard. Yes, she admitted the handguard was incredibly valuable, but it already belonged to him. He could stare at it whenever he wished. But was she someone he could see at any time he liked? What a foolish brat. Ling Han did not know that within this young girl's heart, he had already become a hopelessly unromantic youth. He continued to examine the handguard, his palm rubbing lightly over the patterns branded upon its surface, his expression thoughtful and absorbed. Spiritual tools were typically used to increase a user's battle prowess, yet this was usually achieved through the spiritual tool's own power. For instance, if the power of ice were sealed within a spiritual tool, then once released, it could freeze 1,000 miles, and snow would whirl across 10,000. An extraordinarily terrifying might. This was not directly increasing the martial artist's own battle prowess. But this handguard could actually raise its user's battle prowess by a full battle star. This alone drew Ling Han's keen interest. He wished to investigate thoroughly the wondrous properties of this spiritual tool. If it could be used directly within his body, then would it not become even more astonishing? He sat with utter seriousness, like an immortal monk in meditation. Though an exceptionally beautiful young girl sat beside him, it was as if he had not seen her at all. Yun Shuang could not keep her face from twitching as she was ignored, the look in her eyes plainly unwilling to accept it. This was truly too despicable. She was an extreme beauty. Hey, pang! All of a sudden, the carriage split open from the middle. It was a flash of saber light, fierce enough to cleave heaven and rend earth, that sliced the carriage cleanly into two halves. Who would dare act so boldly within the imperial city? Ling Han and Yun Shuang both sprang from the overturning carriage, landing steadily upon the ground. The coachman suffered little injury. He hastily guided the horse, pulling the other half of the carriage some distance away before finally stopping. Ling Han and Yun Shuang lifted their heads. Not far away, atop a wall, stood a young man with saber in hand, a domineering pressure rolling outward from him like a tempest. Feng Yan. Ling Han, I said before, I will give you a thrashing tonight. He smiled. His expression remained icy, and the pressure he exuded was terrifying beyond measure. This was a man who liked to break the rules. So Ling Han thought. In his previous life, he too had been such a man, one who would not be bound by any rules or regulations. That was because he possessed enough power to disregard them. As one of the world's 7 ultimate warriors of heaven tier, was his status not lofty enough? Feng Yan was no fool. He had dared openly oppose the 3rd Imperial Prince earlier, and now he had publicly cleaved a carriage in half. This was not mere arrogance. He must naturally possess some foundation for such overwhelming confidence. Feng Yan, you have gone too far. Will you not give face even to Milady? Yun Shuang demanded angrily. Was this not a public challenge to Cherishing Flower Pavilion? Translator Dark Angel. Editor Kurisu. I have already shown courtesy to Lady Yan. Feng Yan's lips curved in a faint smile. That is why I did not strike within Cherishing Flower Pavilion, and instead deliberately waited here. He had strength, talent, and patience. Truly, he was a foe as tough as iron. That was how Ling Han judged him. In truth, he even held a measure of admiration for Feng Yan's bearing. Regrettably, Before the two had even properly met, they had already stood upon opposing banks and were fated to become enemies. In his previous life, even if there were a few 100 million Fengyans piled together, they would not have been worth even a single glance from him. Yet now, Ling Han's expression grew solemn. A seventh-layer gushing spring tear could even kill him in an instant. "Don't worry, I won't kill you. Temporarily, that is." Fengyan smiled, yet within that smile pressed down a domineering force that brooked no resistance. "Fengyan!" Yun Shuang cried out loudly. Enough already. One after another, they did not care about the cherishing flower pavilion, and they did not even spare an outstanding beauty like her a second look. She was practically about to be driven into extraordinary fury. Fengyan did not even glance her way, merely cleaving his saber through the air. Shua? A streak of saber chi whirled and surged toward them, like a furious dragon bearing its fangs. When cultivation realms differed, the might carried by saber chi naturally differed as well. Ling Han knew clearly that the 6 flashes of sword chi he possessed now could not match even 1/10 of the strength behind this single saber flash. Yet within his heart, there was no such thing as surrender without battle. Ling Han let out a loud shout, drew his sword, and met it head on. 6 flashes of sword chi shot forth without hindrance. Pang! Without the slightest surprise, he was blasted away by that saber strike. The box in his left hand instantly flew from his grasp, yet his right hand still clamped tightly around his sword. As a swordsman, so long as he lived, he would never release his blade. Cough! He spat out a mouthful of blood. Lowering his gaze, he saw a deep gash across his chest, blood steadily gushing out. However, the indestructible heaven scroll was already circulating, and the wound slowly began to shrink. And a trace of seriousness flickered in Fengyan's eyes. 6 flashes of sword chi? You are stronger than I expected. Moreover, your physical body seems far tougher than any ordinary element-gathering tier martial artist. I had intended to cripple you severely with that slash. Even so, his tone remained utterly calm, as though all was still within his grasp. Ling Han wiped away the blood at the corner of his lips, stood tall, flicked his sword, and said, I admit that you are currently stronger than I am. Give me about half a year, and I will surpass you, and grind you firmly beneath my feet. Ha! Fengyan blanked for a moment, then suddenly burst into loud laughter. He nodded and said, To be able to form 6 flashes of sword chi, you are indeed extraordinarily talented, and indeed far stronger than I once was. However, you will not have the chance to live another half year. Within 3 months, at most, even if you hide within the Imperial Palace of Rain Country, I can still seize you, and you will die beneath my saber. Yun Shuang, who stood to the side, was completely dumbstruck, unable to speak a single word. In her eyes, these two were both maniacs. Fengyan was so strong, yet Ling Han dared say he would catch up in half a year and even trample Fengyan beneath him. And Fengyan was even more mad. He dared say that even if Ling Han hid within the Imperial Palace, he would still seize him and kill him. What treasonous words were these? Oh, then come. Ling Han's battle intent shot straight into the heavens. He held his own trump cards, even if it were only the strange fire. If Fengyan were caught by it, through close contact, even spiritual ocean tier elites would die, let alone a mere gushing spring tier martial artist like Fengyan. You need not try to provoke me. Since I have said I will give you a thrashing tonight, then it will be useless even if you kneel and beg for mercy. Fengyan said calmly. Another saber slash erupted, and a terrifyingly powerful streak of saber chi swept forward. Pang! Ling Han was once again blown away, yet this time he was far better prepared. His sword intercepted an uncountable number of power ripples and actually dispersed more than half of the might behind that single slash. Though he was still flung back and spat blood, the injuries he suffered were far lighter than before. Fengyan could not help but look astonished and said, I only attacked once, yet you were able to grasp the movements of my saber and use a very exquisite method to defend yourself. You truly deserve the name of genius. Now, I am beginning to waver. A genius like you, one that could become a threat to me, should I seize this chance and eradicate you as soon as possible. When he spoke those final words, he did not conceal the killing intent surging within his heart at all. Ling Han's left hand twitched slightly. The strange fire could be flung out at any moment. This was his greatest killing move at present. Feng Yan sprang down from the wall and strode toward Ling Han. Each step he took felt as though it made the earth tremble faintly. Yun Shuang was startled, then realized it was not the ground that trembled, but her heart, unknowingly influenced by Feng Yan's steps. This man was truly powerful. Yet she still mustered her courage, stepped forward, and stood before Feng Yan, because Ling Han was the key to concocting the permanent pill. This was Lady Yan's most important matter, and even if she had to lose her life, she wanted to ensure Ling Han's safety. "Move away," Ling Han shouted. He had not fallen so low that he needed a woman to die in his place. "For Lady Yan's sake, I will not wound you." Feng Yan's left hand flashed, a mighty force blasting out. Yun Shuang was instantly shoved aside, her face pale, her breath caught in her throat, suffering intensely. A 9th-layer element-gathering tier martial artist facing a 7th-layer gushing spring tier opponent. This was the only possible outcome. Feng Yan continued walking toward Ling Han, his expression cold and unreadable. There was no telling what he was thinking, or what he intended to do. Was he going to merely injure Ling Han, or kill him? Ling Han waited with utmost seriousness. This was an opponent so strong that it could drive one into despair. "Yi, this little sister is really quite pretty. Can you let me take a look at your breasts?" At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out, and a figure appeared. This newcomer was staring at Yun Shuang with lecherous eyes, his fingers wriggling like noodles, as though he could reach out and grab at her at any moment. Yun Shuang. Shuang was frightened, quickly shielding her chest with her arms and hastily stepping back. "If I can't look at your breasts, then your bottom will do." This person readily settled for second best, as though he were extremely easy to deal with. He was a young man that seemed only in his 20s. He was not ugly, yet could not be called handsome either. Simply the most ordinary face that could be found on the streets. A perverted grin spread across his face, and he was practically drooling at Yun Shuang's. Yun Shuang was so scared she retreated another step. "Good little sister, don't be afraid. I'm just a pervert, not a bad person," the man said with a completely guiltless expression. Pei, how could a pervert act so boldly, as though he were in the right? Feng Yan's eyes narrowed. With his cultivation, he had not even seen how this person had appeared out of nowhere, and now he could not even tell how strong this person was. An uncontrollable dread rose within him. "How do I address you?" he asked. "Don't speak to me, you ugly man," the newcomer spat out, his gaze still locked entirely on Yun Shuang. "Little sister, what color are your underpants?" Yun Shuang's face turned deathly pale, and Feng Yan's expression also grew unsightly. He said in a deep voice, "Are you intending to defend this brat? Blabbering on and on, don't you know that's annoying?" The man turned his head, swept Feng Yan with a glance, and said, "If you keep chattering, I'll thrash you until you become even uglier." He then turned back toward Yun Shuang and said, "Little sister, my name is Gu Fenghua, an extraordinary pervert, a 100% pervert." He said it proudly, as if becoming a pervert were an achievement worthy of honor.